The AT-LP120XBT-USB is a fully manual direct drive turntable that adds the convenience of Bluetooth wireless connectivity along with a USB output for sending a digital signal to a Mac or PC computer. It includes a lightweight head shell with pre-installed and aligned AT-VM95E cartridge. The turntable's built-in phono preamp allows it to be used with a wide range of amplifiers, powered speakers, and receivers. Before the turntable can be used, it needs to be set up. Carefully unpack the turntable and verify that you have all of the parts and accessories. Position the turntable chassis on a sturdy surface. Install the platter and make certain it is fully seated. Place the felt mat on the platter. Next, assemble the tone arm. Remove the twist tie and protective foam. Temporarily secure the tone arm to its rest with the locking clamp. Attach the head shell with pre-installed AT-VM95E cartridge by inserting it into the tone arm socket. While holding the head shell, rotate the locking ring counterclockwise. As the ring rotates, it pulls the head shell into its seated position. Tighten carefully. Install the counterweight. Make certain the stylus force gauge dial is oriented toward the front. As you rotate the counterweight, it will thread onto the tone arm. Now we will balance the tone arm, set the tracking force, and adjust the anti-skate for the AT-VM95E cartridge. This important process allows the cartridge to track properly, and failure to do so can cause the stylus to wear prematurely and possibly damage your records. The AT-LP7 fully manual belt drive turntable is a precision instrument designed to complement Audio-Technica's innovative VM series moving magnet cartridge line and includes a pre-installed and aligned VM520EB cartridge. Before you can use the turntable, it needs to be set up. Carefully unpack the turntable and verify that you have all of the parts and accessories. Install the platter and drive belt. Carefully place the platter on the spindle and make certain it is fully seated. Slip the drive belt around the platter and gently attach it to the exposed motor pulley. Make certain that the belt is not twisted. Rotate the platter a couple of revolutions by hand to self-center the belt. Next, assemble the tone arm. Remove the twist tie and temporarily secure the tone arm to its rest with the locking clamp. Attach the head shell with VM520EB cartridge by inserting it into the tone arm socket. While holding the head shell in position, rotate the head shell locking ring counterclockwise. As the ring rotates, it pulls the head shell into its seated position. Tighten carefully. Install the counterweight, making certain the black stylus force gauge dial is oriented toward the front. As you rotate the counterweight, it will thread onto the tone arm. Now we will balance the tone arm, set the tracking force, and adjust the anti-skate for the VM520EB cartridge. This important process allows the cartridge to track properly, and failure to do so can cause the stylus to wear prematurely and possibly damage your records. First, set the anti-skate adjustment knob to 0. Make certain that the stylus protector is lowered, protecting the stylus. While gently holding the head shell to stabilize the tone arm, carefully release the locking clamp. At this point, the tone arm is unbalanced and can easily swing. Be careful not to drag the stylus across the platter. While gently holding the head shell, rotate the counterweight until the tone arm is horizontally balanced. It should hover freely just above the platter and not touch the platter surface. Once the tone arm is balanced, without touching the counterweight, carefully move the tone arm to its rest and secure it using the clamp. Now set the stylus tracking force to the manufacturer's recommendation. Every cartridge has a manufacturer's recommended tracking force. Setting the tracking force too light can cause the stylus to skip out of the groove on loud or dynamic passages. Setting it too heavy can cause excessive wear on both the stylus and records, resulting in audio distortion or channel imbalance. The recommended tracking force for the VM520EB cartridge is 2 grams. Locate the black stylus force gauge dial. Marked with numbers and lines indicating different tracking forces, the dial can rotate independently of the counterweight. Without turning the counterweight, carefully rotate the stylus force gauge dial until the 0 on the dial lines up with the center line marked on the top of the tone arm. Now set the tracking force by rotating the entire counterweight assembly in a counterclockwise direction. As you rotate the counterweight, note that the gauge dial rotates with it. Continue turning the counterweight until the 2 value on the gauge dial lines up with the center line mark on the tone arm. You now have set the tracking force properly for the VM520EB cartridge. If you ever change out the cartridge, remember, you must rebalance the tone arm and reset the tracking force to the value required by the new cartridge. The AT-LP7 has an anti-skate force adjustment. This small outward force can be applied to the tone arm to compensate for the natural skating force that pulls the tone arm toward the center of the record. For best performance during normal turntable operation, set the anti-skate adjustment knob to the same value as the cartridge tracking force. When properly set up, the tone arm is parallel to the record surface. If you are playing thicker records, adjust the tone arm height. Loosen the tone arm anchor lever, and using the height adjustment dial, raise or lower the tone arm as needed. After adjustments are complete, tighten the tone arm anchor lever. For best performance, the turntable should be level. Using a small bubble level, adjust the turntable's feet as needed to make certain it is level. With the turntable assembled and leveled, the power and audio connections can be made. First, connect the AC power adapter to the turntable and plug it in to a convenient AC outlet. The AT-LP7 provides a traditional phono output, along with a built-in magnetic phono preamp providing an RIAA equalized line-level output. This makes it compatible with traditional phono inputs on amplifiers and receivers, along with AUX or line-level inputs on powered speakers, amplifiers, and other audio equipment. If your audio device has its own RIAA magnetic phono preamp, simply set the phono line output selector switch to phono, bypassing the turntable's internal preamp. If you are connecting to an AUX-type line-level input or powered speakers, place the output selector switch in the line position to use the turntable's internal phono preamp. If your audio device has a separate ground terminal, connect the spade lug on the dual RCA cable to the grounding lug on your audio equipment to help minimize hum. The AT-LP7 turntable can also be used with moving coil cartridges. For moving magnet cartridges, including the VM520EB, make certain this switch is set to the moving magnet MM position. Should you choose to install a moving coil cartridge, set the switch to the moving coil MC position. The turntable's dust cover is designed to protect the turntable when not in use and should remain off when records are playing. For more information, visit us on the web at www.audio-technica.com.
We've made it as easy as possible to enjoy your vinyl recordings with the ALVA TT version 2 turntable. Most of the complicated calibration is done by the experts at our factory, but there are a couple of relatively simple steps you need to follow in order to get started. I've been taking these things apart since I was 5 years old, so I've had a lot of practice putting them back together again, and that's what I'll show you today. A turntable is an entirely mechanical method of music reproduction, from the stylus that tracks the grooves to the motor that spins it. It can be sensitive to outside influences. A flat surface, away from any potential sources of vibration, is highly recommended. We don't package the turntable with the platter attached. It's heavy, we wouldn't want it moving around during transit and causing damage. Place it on the base plate over the spindle. Next, attach the head shell to the tone arm and tighten the collar. The last piece that needs attaching is the tone arm counterweight. We leave this off to save the tone arm from undue stress in the box. Simply push and rotate onto the thread. The next thing to do is set the tracking force. This is the pressure the stylus applies to the record. Too much pressure and the stylus won't track the grooves properly, causing distortion and lost information, as well as causing avoidable wear to your records. Too little and the stylus will jump and potentially damage your records. So you can see the value in getting it right. Correctly set counterweight makes sure the stylus rests properly in the groove of the record, and you use this force gauge to get the right balance. The tracking force required varies by tone arm and cartridge. The ALVA TT V2 tone arm and cartridge combination needs a tracking force of 2 grams. It doesn't sound like much, but when you consider the minute size of the stylus, it's plenty. Before you go any further, ensure the bias dial is set to 0. We'll come back to this once we've set the counterweight. Place the gauge on the platter, unclick the tone arm and remove the cover from the cartridge. Rest the stylus on the appropriate point on the gauge, in this case 2. You want the gauge to balance on its pivot point unassisted. It's advisable to make your adjustments with the tone arm in the armrest to avoid potential damage to the cartridge. If the stylus pushes the gauge down, it's too heavy and you need to move the counterweight towards the back of the tone arm. If the gauge pushes the stylus up, it's too light, move the counterweight forward. This part requires a little bit of care and patience, but don't be put off. Once you've got the gauge balanced, go back to your bias dial. As the stylus runs through the groove of a record, it's pulled towards the centre. The bias setting allows us to apply an opposite force to ensure the stylus stays upright and reads both sides of the groove equally, which is vital for accurate stereo playback. Set the bias dial to position 2 in order to match the tracking force, and we're nearly there. Once you've fitted the dust cover using the supplied hinges, you'll need to decide how to connect your turntable to your amp. Wired, wireless, or both. If you choose wired, remember that the ALVA TT V2 has a quality switchable phono stage built in. A phono stage is a specialist piece of amplification equipment that can take the tiny level of current generated by the cartridge and amplify it to a level where a regular amplifier can work with it. Some amplifiers have a phono stage built in. If you already have a phono stage in your system and you want to connect to it, it is vitally important that the one inside ALVA TT V2 is switched to the phono position, otherwise it won't sound good and could damage your speakers. If you don't already have a separate phono stage, switch the ALVA TT V2 to line. If you're unsure about this step, you should consult your owner's manual before making any connections. If you go down the wireless route, you'll need to pair the ALVA TT V2 with a Bluetooth receiver, either a speaker, an amplifier, or a set of headphones. Ideally, your receiver should be aptX HD certified. No worries if not, the ALVA TT V2 supports Bluetooth connections up to and including aptX HD. To start the pairing process, we advise turning off all Bluetooth devices other than the ALVA TT V2 and the device you want to pair it to. Then activate your device's pairing mode. Turn on the ALVA TT V2 and press the Bluetooth pairing button located on the rear for 2 seconds. The blue LED will flash quickly to indicate it's in pairing mode. Once successful, the blue LED will stop flashing and it will enter paired mode. A solid light indicates a standard Bluetooth connection, whilst long solid intervals indicate a higher quality aptX HD connection. Once you've paired the turntable, it will automatically pair to the last device, so no need to go through setup again. Finally, and most importantly, sit back and enjoy listening.